It was a night like any other, or so I thought. I had walked that same dusty path 100 times before, heading back to my village after a long day in the fields. The moon was high, casting just enough light to make shadows dance along the trees. My feet, worn from the day's walk, carried me homeward, and the distant murmur of crickets filled the night air. But tonight, something felt different. It wasn't the usual quiet of the night. There was a hum in the air, a sound that was almost too faint to hear but too strong to ignore. It tugged at me, making my steps falter as I walked. I paused for a moment, looking around. The village was silent, the homes dark, everyone asleep. Then, out of nowhere, I saw it, shimmering in the distance. A faint glow that had no business being there at that hour. At first, I thought it might have been a campfire, but there was no smoke rising. It wasn't the flicker of lanterns, either. The glow was strange, almost like the moon had broken free from the sky and was hovering over the ground. I stood still, my heart picking up its pace. The pull of it was undeniable, something I could not explain. I knew I shouldn't go. They had warned us stories of things like this, things that appear in the dead of night and vanish before dawn. But curiosity, that age-old companion, had already crept into my mind. I told myself I'd only look, just a peek, and then I'd leave. Against my better judgment, I found myself moving toward it. As I walked closer, the glow grew brighter, more distinct. It was coming from the middle of the forest, a place I had never dared to go at night. The trees were thick, the path uneven, but the light, just beyond, pulled me forward. And then I saw it, the market. It wasn't like any market I had ever seen before. There were no tables, no stalls. Instead, there were people I didn't recognize, walking around, buying and selling goods. But they weren't just any goods. There were fruits I'd never seen before, herbs that shimmered in the dark, and fabrics that changed color with every step you took. The air was filled with a strange scent, like spices, sweet fruits, and something darker, something that reminded me of a storm before it breaks. The people didn't speak much, only nodding or waving at each other. There was an eerie quietness about them, as if they were trapped in this market, bound to it by something far stronger than any human will. I wasn't the only one who noticed. Others from the village were there too. Some were trading, some were watching, and others, well, they were looking just as confused as I felt. But they didn't seem scared. Instead, they seemed mesmerized, as if the market had a power over them they couldn't escape. I wandered through the crowd, my mind racing. Where did this market come from? Why only at midnight? Then, I saw her. A woman, no, she wasn't really a woman. Her eyes gleamed with an unnatural light. Her skin was pale, almost as if she had never seen the sun. She was standing in front of a stall, an empty stall, just waiting. Her gaze met mine, and for a moment, I froze. She smiled. But it wasn't a kind smile. It was like she knew something I didn't. "Do you want to buy something?" she asked, her voice soft, but there was something off about it. A strange sense of urgency in her tone. I don't know what this market is," I replied, though my voice faltered. She leaned in closer, her smile widening. "This market gives you what you desire. But beware, for not all desires come without a price." I didn't understand what she meant. But something told me I needed to leave, to run far from this place. But before I could turn around, something in the crowd caught my eye. There was a man, one of the villagers, standing near a store, holding a bright gold coin. He was smiling, but it wasn't his usual smile. It was greedy, hungry, like he had found something that he didn't want to lose. I watched him take the coin and give it to the storekeeper, a figure cloaked in shadows. The moment the exchange was made, the man's smile faded, and his face twisted in horror. He stumbled backward, his hands trembling. The people around him turned their heads, but no one spoke. No one moved. I saw the man's eyes, wild, desperate, as if he was looking for an escape. But there was none. The market had him now. And it wasn't letting go. It was then that the full realization hit me. This market, this strange, midnight gathering, it wasn't here to offer something good. It wasn't here to help. It was here to take. It was a place where desires were traded for something far worse than anything you could ever imagine. Suddenly, the air grew heavy. The noise of the market faded into a distant hum. People walked slower, as if time itself had slowed down. I turned to leave, but the woman with the glowing eyes was standing in front of me, blocking my path. "You must choose," she whispered, her voice now a cold wind in the night. "Desire is powerful. It blinds you. But remember, everything you take must be paid for in return." I turned and ran, faster than I'd ever run in my life, never looking back. When I reached the edge of the forest, the glow was gone. The market, the people, everything vanished as if it had never been there at all. The only proof of it was the cold sweat on my skin and the pounding of my heart. The next day, I told the others. But no one believed me. Some laughed. Some said I was dreaming, that the night had played tricks on my eyes. But I knew what I saw. And I realized something deep in my bones. Desire, it's a dangerous thing. It makes you think that you can get something for nothing. It pulls you into places you never intended to go. It convinces you that everything has a price, but it hides the cost until it's too late. The man who had traded his coin. He was never seen again. Some say he disappeared into the night. Others say he was caught, trapped by the very market he thought would grant him his desires. But I learned that night, the hard way, that true happiness doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from knowing what you truly need, and being content with it. The midnight market only appears when we let our desires control us. But when we resist the pull, when we are content with what we have, it disappears forever. And that's the real lesson: beware the market that only comes at midnight. Because the cost of your desires may be greater than you can afford. And so, I leave you with this thought: desire is a shadow. Chase it, and it will lead you to darkness. Walk in the light, and it will fade away. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for listening, and remember, sometimes, the greatest treasures are the ones we already have. Until next time.